So, when you look back at the version of you who you used to be, you almost laugh at the thought of the things you used to think, the things you used to do, compared to who and where you are today. I remember jumping from one plan to the next. I'd be on bodybuilding.com every fucking half an hour. I'd be following all the latest YouTube trends, the Instagrammers for how they were getting in shape, six-pack abs. I would download every free meal planner that there was under the sun. And looking back now, I can honestly say that I am only as good at what I do now, able to coach hundreds of people, be able to mentor the coaches that work at Kale Health based on the amount of shit that I had to go through and all of the failures of all the things that I tried along the way. So today I want to tell you how I went from chasing quick fixes to building a business that's helped near 1,000 people transform their lives, improve their confidence and self-worth, and how every lesson that I've learned today has started with me getting it wrong first. So I remember in the early days of dieting and trying to get in shape, the big thing that was always going around was the power of carb cycling. Okay. And I honestly believe this one is going to fix it. Of course it worked. So listen to this. One day you would reduce carbohydrates. The other day you might increase based on being a training day. And what this does explicitly is reduce your calorie intake overall. Okay. Over the week, if you were to look on a 7-day period, and your calorie intake should be, let's say, 14,000 calories. Because you have cycled carbohydrates, you've restricted and taken a food from, let's say, 3 days out of those 7. That will create the energy balance of being in a calorie deficit. So you just stay with me where I'm going with this podcast. Remembering, I want to give you the background in regards to how you are good good at what you do, and where you are today, being in the best place where you are, is based on all of your failures from your past. That's what it's all about. And so a moment of embarrassment that I had towards nutrition and the coaching side of things was, I remember being sat in the pub in Barnoldswick. It was called the Fountain Inn at the time. It's currently closed. And I was sat with one of the coaches that I worked with at the time, Charlie, and we were chewing the fat, talking about business, talking about clients, case studies in general. And he just generally asked me, he said, hey, what sort of approach do you have with your clients when you are coaching nutrition and trying to get their body composition changes? He was impressed with how my clients were getting results from a body fat perspective. They were changing body composition. And I told him about it. I said, I carb cycle, I do this clean eating, I try all of these multiple things. And he just said this one thing to me, the terminology, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And this was profound. I remember just taking a sip of the beer. It was a San Miguel. And he said, track calories, number one, and protein intake. That is all it takes. And I remember just laughing, thinking, fuck off, like that's way too easy. As if I was, and this, you'll be able to resonate this as well, we are quick to get into a mindset of trying to search for a big monumental thing that is going to move this needle forward and be this profound aha moment. But actually, that is our ego trying to attach to something that makes us feel better about what it is that you actually need to do to move forward. Needle movers are very simple things, very basic, not sexy. They're just done very well and very consistently, frequently, for a long enough period of time for you to be able to see and feel the difference. And whatever it is, whether this is a relationship, whether this is a career you're trying to build or a business you're trying to build, your physique, it is all about the effective 20% effort for 80% return. And that doesn't mean you here to cut corners, for sure. It means, hey, can I be more effective on the things that I'm choosing to do to yield a bigger return? So, first client that I've ever helped, I'm going to change the name for the purposes of just keeping privacy in check. Her name was Sally, and I worked at Pendle Leisure at the time, West Craven Sports Centre, fantastic gym to work for. My manager at the time were Icky, and why have I just completely forgotten his name? Incredible coach. I have completely forgotten his name. It will come back to me. I'll come back to it through the rest of this podcast. So I was a gym instructor, class instructor, and just newly qualified level 3 coach, and just took an interest in chatting to this individual. She would always be sat on the bike, which was on the front row at West Craven at the time. She sat on the bike, headphones in, white headphones. They were the where we had wires at that particular time, which were well over 13 years ago. She was a southerner, so her social skills were very, very good, very charismatic, lots of eye contact. She talked to anyone, although her confidence in herself wasn't great. She was in sales. She was quite high up in a company, of which required her to be very confident in showing up at work, sales for this particular company. And that in turn, based on the job, would show in her day-to-day life, even though she didn't have much confidence in herself and how she felt about herself. You could tell based on what she would wear. She would always wear a lot of black, very baggy clothes, cover herself up, always came in wearing a face of makeup and, yeah, looking really well presentable and, like I said, charismatic. And we took a liking to each other. And so basically, I was interested in figuring out more about how she, like what sort of work she did, just genuinely interested in talking to her. So this made her feel very seen, very safe, and just very much as if that it was somewhere she could feel she could conversate, train at the same time, and yeah, essentially, potentially help her get towards these goals. So she inquired about one-to-one coaching to help her with her lifestyle habits based on being a busy individual, always on the road, in company meetings. Back then it was pre-COVID, way pre-COVID. So there were no working from home. It was literally you were in the office 5 days a week, or she was on the road to London. She was traveling up Cumbria. She was up and down the country. She wanted help with fat loss and she was overweight. She wanted to introduce strength training into her life as well, just based on she had been influenced from online that strength training is massive for females, especially getting towards the 40, 50-year-old mark, of which perimenopause, we understand that for you guys who are listening to that, there is perimenopause to think about. So she knew that strength training, moving her own body, holding less body fat, was not only going to help improve the longevity of her life, but also help towards her business and career at the same time. I'm going to be drinking throughout this as well, guys. Not a can of alcohol exactly, but caffeine. So her main problems were self-perception and self-image. They were very low. And that still goes on today. We have hundreds of clients that we work with who come in to work with us whose self-image and self-perception, they don't know is low until they realize the habits that they have been living by and behaviors and thoughts are all based on their self-perception and self-image. And so I remember working with her. She was very high performing, very lots of high standards for herself in her work and her career, but very little movement day to day. On the go from the types of food that she would consume, she would always be at the next gas station, petrol station, service station, where she'd pick up shit food and obviously just allow that to get to her next meeting. She was a high functioning individual, lots of low energy. And she saw by making that move and starting the coaching, she knew that, hey, this is going to be be able to hold me accountable to that thing. So I remember in the early days of me starting to be a coach, there was a lot of insecurity, imposter syndrome. I'd always compare myself to PTs that I'd seen potentially work at Exercise for Less, and that's what it were at the time over in Burnley, at Pure Gyms. All the PTs were in incredible shape. They had fucking muscles upon muscles. They looked like, and I perceived them as that they knew everything about PT. They'd be able to get everybody a fucking result. And so I always thought, what have I got to be able to give in comparison to those individuals? And that's how I tied my self-worth at the time. I tied my self-worth to external factors and perceiving myself as not good enough based on how I looked. And that if I didn't look a certain type of way, I wasn't in shape, as in holding a lot of muscle, then surely that dictated my level of competency to be able to coach somebody through their own change as well. So that was a massive mistake. Often what I realised is, as I've gone through the industry, you can be a pretentious prick with abs coming out of your eyeballs, big muscles, and you can be a total goo. Equally, I know that you can be as well if you don't have all of those things. So yeah, there's a bit of a nuance and caveat with that. But it did put a blunt to how fast I went into actually becoming a coach, just based on worrying about external factors, imposter syndrome. Was I going to be good enough? Would anyone listen to me? Would anyone see me as an authority within the industry to help them with their journey? And so I want to move into how this can relate to you. From if you had searched the internet in the late 2000s for how to get abs, I was probably on the same websites as you, and there'll be some of you that probably maybe even not gone through that phase, but yours may now be in the worldview and landscape of Instagram, Reels, TikToks, influencers. This influencer marketing wasn't a huge thing back then. You obviously want to be feeling more confident in your body. You want to have more energy and actually like what you see in the mirror. But it's very easy to sometimes not stick with anything long enough to see the benefits and to let that thing work. And I think that goes for anything, even in potentially relationships. Have you given it a long enough time horizon for it to work? Businesses, career, physique for sure, performance. We're quick to try and get immediate gratification or results from a very small timeline, when you really zoom out of how long it actually takes for you to see or feel a difference in the things that you are hopefully moving forward in. One particular, you could probably thinking, why is there so many bits of information jumping around in this particular podcast? I have got notes for me to follow through this podcast, but I'm going to be jumping back and forth through. So one specific diet that helped me get in shape at that particular time was clean eating. I went into that for a while and it got results, but it also impacted my mental state. So clean eating, when we talk about that, is chicken, broccoli and rice, no consumption of any sugar, no eating out, no alcohol, purely single ingredient foods, of which I am a big advocate of. Single ingredient meals, big advocate of for sure. But when you're first starting out on something in the early weeks and months and year for sure, I think it can be quite hard based on the restrictiveness that comes with that. And we always know when it comes to anything that you're starting out to be, that you wanted to progress in, could be even training performance. The biggest factors are sustainability and adherence. Can you sustain this for a long enough period of time for you to be able to adhere to that thing, to see the change over that time? And if you can't, then it's not right for you. So that particular clean eating methodology wasn't right for me. There were some of you guys who are doing fasting right now. You might be fasting for 36 hours a few times a week. And some of you it's going to work for. Some of you who are listening to this probably won't, especially if you fucking love breakfast. If you love getting up in the morning, you're looking forward to having breakfast in the morning. Fasting is not going to be for you. Ketogenic diet. Do you love a pizza? Do you love bread? Do you love carbs? Do you love crisps? If you're saying yes, that potentially isn't the right methodology for you. And I think the sooner we realise that it's very easy to demonise foods for being the problem, as in, let's use an example, chocolate bar has fucking 200 calories in, and we demonise that based on social media, influencer marketing, things we've read online, something that's been massive from the 90s into the 2000s. We demonize these foods, and especially we know that what we call hedonic food. So if we consume one, we likely could consume four of those things, chocolate bars. If we consume a few tender stem broccolis, we're not going to want to fucking consume 1,000 calories worth of tender stem broccolis. So yeah, it's understanding we want to try and limit this fucking shame and restrictiveness around food intake. And I remember this once, I was babysitting my cousin at the time, whose name was Jaden, and I bought myself a share bag of Malwams, and I remember him asking me, this was based on me like having a bit of a treat or cheat meal on a Sunday or Saturday. I think it was a Saturday night, and he asked me for some, and I was like, not a fucking chance. I went mad. I was like, no, they're mine. They're all of mine to consume. So again, it created this really weird outward behavior and presence that I was becoming a little bit addicted over because I was protective over it. I need to consume this now. This is mine. It just wasn't sustainable long term. Short term results, fine. And if you are potentially stepping on stage, we do have a client that we're taking on stage later this year, be the first time that she will do this, and I will have to help Stacey, who is her lead coach, watch her through the psychological standpoint of nutrition, relationship with food, and that it is restrictive, and that it's not necessarily going to be a detrimental thing during that period of time, but afterwards and zooming out and reversing out of that thing is going to be challenging. So a moment of shame and secrecy. I remember when I was growing up, there was a shop on the town called VG at the time. It's now known as McCulloch's Irish Bar, but it was an off license. Basically, you could get alcohol there, you could get chocolate crisps. And I remember coming home from football on Sunday. I think it was weather like this. It was definitely a January or Feb, and I was only young. I was probably around 11 or 12, and I remember going into the shop and getting one of the large Share Galaxy bars and taking it up to the counter, and the woman behind the counter, I was only small bed in this mind, I had my football bag, boot bag on my back, and she'd said, "Hey, that's not all for you," in a joking way. And I remember just fucking thinking, I want this whole shop to swallow me up, because I knew deep down it is all for me. And she was being harmless. But that sat with me, that has sat with me. I still remember that to this day, based on knowing I went home, I hid that under my pillow, and the secrecy of that then became that secret eating, whereby I felt better about eating in secret than in public based on not wanting to be seen for eating these types of food. So I put a lot of shame around chocolate and sweet and dessert just based on that being a vice for me. And I ate it in secret. And I always remember, like, if we'd ever eat out or friends would come around, I'd never eat dessert in front of anybody, because then people couldn't put two and two together, like, that's why the kid's fat, because he eats a shit ton of dessert. Whereas if I didn't eat it, they'd be like, you don't even eat sweet food. I fucking did, just in secret. There was a lot of patterns you'd see like that as I was growing up, and you may even have the same things. How you ate, how you watched parents or grandparents eat, friends. You may have even been in the same position whereby it can be quite easy to over restrict and over commit to these things to make yourself feel better. But essentially, like we said about those two things, can you adhere to it and sustain it long enough to see the results? And we do see it week to week now with clients. We have some clients, Dan's been working with a particular client over 6 months, who in very early days would overcommit and over focus on too many things at once. Essentially what that does, let's say if we look at this from an effort and resource perspective, if you go too deep laterally on multiple things, there's a lot of fragmentation there, of which can drink your bandwidth, definitely decreases your focus and ability to go hard on these things. And hard by meaning being consistent, hard not being this David Goggins style chat, more around going deeper for long enough, so going vertically deep rather than laterally. It's very easy to overcommit because we are influenced a lot by what we see on social media. And we see a lot of people's best highlight reels, what they're doing, what they've achieved, but haven't necessarily been shown what it's taken to get to that point. And so we latch onto people's outputs and what we're seeing, what we're being shown, and think that it's based on people doing so many different things. Whereas actually, back to that, keeping things very simple, do a couple of things really well every fucking day, frequently, more often than not. And so you'll feel this if you have overcommitted to a lot of shit. And it could be that you've done that potentially going into New Year's and you've headed into January trying to focus on the fucking 10, 15 goals that you've set for the year. And it can easily lead to procrastination, stagnation. We can easily quit. Self-sabotage creeps in. You'll get some results, but they don't last long. And it's normal, especially when you take advice from multiple sources. And like I said, back to the beginning, I would be on 3 different websites, 6 different YouTubers. I'd be looking for all of this information, trying a couple of this, trying that. That's not worked. Doing this. You context flipping between multiple things. Drinks bandwidth. Yes, short term you may get some results, but refer back or regress back because you haven't necessarily locked in any habits, routines, or behaviors or thought processes. And that's where then you can waste years not having really made any progress. And a lot of you listening to this right now may be thinking, I really can't land or resonate with this, then fuck off the podcast. If you can, then just know that this is very, very normal to experience for those, especially who knows what they want. They know they want to move away from pain. They know they deserve more, but it's very easy to get caught up in multiple different things. Remember, we are in an era of our attention trying to be grabbed from every angle. Our mobile phones, notifications, text messages, YouTube, notifications, podcasts. You're on one now. We are trying to grab your attention, where our attention is trying to be grabbed from multiple areas. And that, like I said, creates fragmentation, creates scattiness, creates procrastination, comparison syndrome. Am I doing the right thing? I'll try that, and that worked for them, so I'm going to try this. And then before you know it, zoom out for 12 months, you don't fuck up. So the realization for me, and here's the thing, the reason why I never stuck at anything long enough wasn't because I didn't want it badly enough. And I think sometimes I've heard a lot of coaches online post reels, hey, you haven't continued to do this, or you've not managed to achieve it because you don't fucking want it badly enough. And I think that's a lot of shit. It would happen, and it happens when you stop copying someone else's blueprint and focusing on you, your routines, your habits. You can for sure listen to advice and be influenced by individuals, but stick with that one thing. And it goes back to this. I've had undiagnosed ADHD and it's only just come out in my later life. Yeah, maybe, whatever. But is it just that you just can't focus on one thing for long enough to fucking see a change on it? Simple as that. So the big thing that I do with anything is if I'm not seeing results or progress in an area of anywhere, I always look back at me first, not the plan or the thing or the vehicle, as in my coach. It's their problem. They didn't reach out to me soon enough. They were quiet on their last call. It's a lot of bullshit. Look at yourself first. Remember, problems exist internally first before externally. We project outwardly what's going on in here. It's always on you. Taking ownership of the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do is the fast track to your long-term success in anything, business, relationships, marriage. The dogs are barking. That is on you. So if you are too busy focusing on multiple things, your ego is basically trying to make you feel productive. Apologies for the dogs. I think my father's turned up. This is real-time podcasting. Absolutely fine. So if you're too busy focusing on multiple things, when we use the term ego, that doesn't necessarily mean, wow, he's an egotistical prick. It's not in what we know it as this surface level thing. It's more our ego has been built from as soon as we've been born. It's built on experiences. It's built on the past. And it's also built in living in the future as well, as in vision for yourself, you wanting more for yourself. So the ego only attaches to past and future. And what the ego does is it attaches to things that has worked in previous times or in years previously because it got you to a result. It wants you to feel productive so it can attach to something based on allowing your current state, i.e. presence, which is very hard to get in nowadays. So then we are stuck in this past and we're stuck in this future of really not moving anywhere. It will try and get you to do a little bit of this one week, a little bit of that the week next. Friction works, but it is in the door things. If you are somebody, as an example, in man prep for myself, I could have only withstood that for a few months preparation. It was worked out about 16 weeks in total before I knew full well I cannot sustain this any longer from a work schedule perspective, my energy, my recovery. I could only sustain that for a period of time. So think about that for you. Is there something you're doing right now? How sustainable is that thing? How long can you keep this up over in order to attain this goal and this outcome that you want? I'll guarantee there will be a percentage of you guys listening to this that can stick to restriction and discipline. I know there are. I am amongst those individuals day to day. I was once in that bracket, but it cannot be done forever. It cannot be done forever. If you can, and it can be done forever, you are in the top 0.000001% of people like David Goggins. But the majority of us, we need flexibility in anything that you do. Relationships, marriage, business, physique, development, performance, there has to be some form of flexibility. Flexibility can be different and be interpreted differently person to person. If we use an example of client breakthrough, flexibility is when a training schedule is put together. And if it's on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they can move that around relative to how the diaries fall. So they could actually do that Monday session on Tuesday. Their food diaries, as an example, zooming out over a 21-day period, whereby if we have to hit a certain amount of calories per day, well, what does that equate to over 7 days? What does it equate to over 21 days? The longer the time horizon, the more change and results you will see through that period of time. But if you were to track it day to day, you are going to see this up and down fluctuation, as in it could be the protein intake could be 200 grams one day and it could be 80 the next day. As long as we're zooming out over 7 days to 21 days, you're going to be seeing that overall trajectory of it is high average. Food tracking is a big one that changed my perspective of being able to progress rather than trying to be perfect and hit these fucking macros like calories, carbohydrates, fats, fiber. If I were trying to hit that every day whilst trying to build the PT business in the first few years, there is no chance. So by having that flexibility of, well, if I fancy going out for a meal on Wednesday night down at Mario's and having a fake beer, pizza and a steak, that's not going to fucking break the bank. And see this analogy to help you understand. Think about your bank balance. If you have £2,000 a week to spend and you spend on average, let's say £500 on Monday, you spend a £500 on Tuesday, as long as over the week, Wednesday comes, you spend £1,000, you're at £2,000 spent for the week and you've only been in 3 days. So you know you're going to have to find over the 4 days, you're going to have to go into that surplus, which is an overdraft, which when we talk about that surplus, you're going to gain body fat off that thing. So I'm just trying to use analogies for you to understand that a bank balance equation so that over the course of the 7-day period, you're balancing things out. Same principle for your running. If you have to get 50Ks worth of runs in a week, well, can you distribute that differently? Can you do 5, 10Ks? Can you do a long 20K and then do some 5Ks? As long as that average number over a period of time is where it needs to be, not trying to be fixed in 1 week at a time. So think about where does your ego need to drop for you to be able to sustainably do what you're doing. It is easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing. I fucking know that, especially if you're in a friends group or a social setting or influencers on social media and all the reels and the top trends that are out there. it takes you further away from the things that you need to be doing with where you're going. And listen, you're no different to anybody else. It won't take a fucking brain surgeon to work out what you need to do. There are always basic frameworks and principles to follow, but by following multiple different things that's worked for her, him, this, that, and the other, it is going to take you further away from taking action. That's the issue here. We romanticize and flirt with the idea of and the thought of, and what it is, like I said, it's fucking procrastination dressed up as productive. You climb a ladder. I find sometimes I've done this where you climb a ladder that wasn't meant for you, and the view isn't what you expected, and so you've got to go backwards. It's like the train journey. You get on the wrong train to the wrong destination. You could be 10 hours away from home. So be very mindful of what you're about to embark on heading into 2026 or embark on next. Is it the right thing for you to sustain and adhere to over a period of time? But just a little bit of background with building the gym, KL Health Hub. I had a lesson there where being flexible, patient, and honest with myself became the backbone of building KL Health Hub. There were no chasing of any hacks. And I remember early days of like coaching CEOs of companies who are very highly successful individuals. They would always have that conversation around being patient, that nothing is ever what you expect and envisage it to be. I can't say that term. Don't hack your way to success. Play the long game. Hence, this fucking podcast is playing the long game. And one individual sticks out a lot. I'm not going to name him. He said to me, I remember we were on the sled track, and this was at the first gym at Majestics, which is in town centre of Barnoldswick. He always said to me, he said, if you're ever going to expand and grow into potentially a second site or expand the current size of what you've got, ask yourself the question, why do you want to grow? What is the reason for that growth? What is the reason for you to move forward? And if you can't answer it honestly and truthfully for yourself, and that it's going to benefit you on a personal level from your personal life, it's going to bring you joy, it's going to bring you fulfillment, then don't do it just for the sake of it. Because with growth, any of you guys listening to this who are business owners or even fucking you have children, it comes with it shit. It's so easy to look at people's lives and see all the upside that they post, but people aren't willing to fucking take on their shit that comes with it as well. As an example, having children, there's so many incredible upsides to having children, but there's also so many fucking downsides to having children, I assume, based on working with clients who have children. So think about that. Are you patient? Are you being flexible? Are you focusing on inputs and process and journey over this outcome that, like I said, isn't what you fucking think anyway? Just to touch on a few notable points for clients whose life changes out. I'm going to have to get better with these transitions between points. This is going to come with time, and this is quite uncomfortable. Being on video, this is the first video podcast that I've done. So any feedback would be very welcome based on maybe commenting on this video as well, messaging me on Instagram, dropping me a DM, etc. I'd be very grateful if you can give me some feedback in regards to how this is going. And so you notice when you do become disciplined but flexible within your lifestyle factors, training, nutrition, hydration, you do become more disciplined externally. So a lot of clients have said this as I've been coaching them over the years. They say when we bring it up in our client cohort roundtables on a Monday at KL, when we're heading into the week, people, based on the standards and the habits and the routines they've got in check with their health, their fitness, their nutrition, these important things to keep them at a certain level, also transpire in external parts of their life as well, at home, at work, in relationships, career, social settings. The discipline increases there as well. But realize the discipline is also mainly about this one thing, two things: organization, your level of organization, and how prepared you are. And there'll be a lot of people listening to this who have aged. How the fuck can I get on top of that? How can I be organized? How can I be disciplined? I get that, but I also think there's an identity attachment there as well. And we potentially, some of us, could use that to our advantage of making us feel better about the lack of organization and preparation skills that we actually have, because it's a skill. That's all it is. Or being organized and prepared is a fucking skill. You were not born with that. You did not come out of your mum's fucking vagina at 0 years old and you were organized and prepared. That fucking kid's going to be organized and prepared as they grow older. It's bullshit. It's a skill that you build over time. And I think actually people with ADHD have an advantage on themselves in regards to when they are organized and prepared in a certain area of their life, they fucking go all in, and the level of success that they acquire from that ability to go hard vertically and deeper vertically, not on all of these things, they get some success in their life, right? They might be running fucking, like, even your big company CEOs and directors who opened Spotify or that Stripe payment company, Shopify, were all people who were creative, had ADHD, who couldn't focus on one thing at once, but harness that power for them to think about limiting all this fragmentation, multiple things, listening to all of these things. It keeps you going laterally in fragmentation. So think about that. Is it that you need to just focus for a period of time? The more you create flexibility with your routines, the more realistic it is to be able to adhere. And when I say flexibility, it doesn't mean letting yourself off or I'll do this here and I'll let myself off there. Flexibility means, again, longer time horizons. Don't judge yourself based on the day or the month. Judge yourself more based on the year overall. And you'll find when you do then reflect on the year, a lot of shit has gone right. Equally, a lot of shit has gone wrong, but you're not getting caught up in the day-to-day of this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. It's always going to fucking happen. So think about, it's easy to stick to structure. Structure is massive. Structure within your training, structure within your nutrition, structure within business, at home. When you put your organization skills and preparation to good use, you are able to move forward for longer as long as you're holding yourself accountable or have somebody to hold yourself accountable. And it could be hiring a coach. Some of you may have hired a coach at this time of year. If you're listening to this month down the line, you may have a coach or be interested in having a coach, and you'll know that that's something we're big on at Kale Health Hub. Is the level of accountability we have for our clients is if we have a check-in a week on a digital setting back on Discord, it's our communications channel. There will also be another prompt of communication either digitally or in person on the gym floor, and we allow this these regular touch points between coach and client so that clients are staying aligned with the actions that they should be taking for long periods of time. 21-day in-person check-ins as well. Sit down, have a coffee, chew the fat, see what's going right, see what's going wrong, build out the next 21-day period as well. And then that goal realignment strategy. What is it that you are aiming for long term? We always need to think about that long term perspective as well. And I don't mean long term as in 3 to 5 years, but hey, over the next 6 months, where are you actually going? What is it you actually want to achieve? And that has to be broken down into the quarter, into the months, into the weeks, into the days. So think about that for yourself. How are you able to sustain this for a long enough period of time? I remember my first 12-week transformation that I did myself. And I was with a coach. His name's James, incredible coach. He worked for M10 Fitness at the time. Very knowledgeable guy. Very good. If I were to ever go through a body composition change again, he would be the first person that I would call and reach out to. And I remember my diet that I'd had at this particular time. It was 200 grams of beef mince and blueberries for breakfast. Like, sometimes if I was that lazy, I would have them consumed together. That's for another story. If any of you guys know me, you'll know that I eat some random concoctions. Avocado and chicken pre-workout. So a very high fat, high protein meal. And then more beef mince and blueberries for tea. No snacks, just hydration. I'd have caffeine as well to support the workouts. It worked. Like, legit, I got in insane shape. I looked incredible. Had an 8-pack. Maybe if I can edit this, I can put a picture on the screen in regards to how lean I actually got. Could I sustain it? Not at all. Absolutely fucking not. I hated it. I even missed, I think, I had been at the time, I could have been 21 at the time. And I missed my 21st birthday from eating out. We went to Ben Brazil in Leeds, so it was the all-you-can-eat meat buffet, and I took my own Tupperware of food. And a lot of you guys will be listening to this, either having done that yourself or thought, what the fuck are you doing, mate? But that's what I mean by when you zoom out of this podcast. I had to go through all these multiple failures of things in order to be able to coach our clients to the best of our abilities. And we're still doing this now. I've done multiple Hyroxes, done singles, mixed doubles, done double men's. I've done my Ironman, I've done triathlons. I have endured failure throughout doing these things in order to be able to learn from them, reflect from them, to be able to help our clients not go through the same level of shit that I had to go through or that our coaches have had to go through. Remember, the level of identity that you hold today will reflect back in your life and the results that you have for your life. So how you perceive yourself, the habits that you've got, the routines that you've got, the behaviors will show in how you're living day to day and what is in your life. So if you are sat within your life and you think, I'm not particularly happy with the relationship that I've got, or my job, or how my body looks, how my body feels, that is a reflection of the habits and the routines and the behaviors that you have built up over the past 3 to 6 months. Fact, like, that's not me just putting that on you to take ownership. You do have to take ownership. And you have to realize that that is a reflection of the effort that you've put in. No, I'm going to take that back. Not the effort. You could have been putting the effort in the wrong fucking areas, being ineffective in the decisions that you were making and trying to be productive in multiple different things, but yielding a totally shit result that, again, you climbed to the top of the ladder and it wasn't what you thought. If you're in that place right now, jumping between things, and this isn't just, like, our coaching isn't just about being able to deadlift X amount of kilogram or fucking get in a physical shape or run a fucking your first 10K. It's not about that. This is about your life, and that there is a life out there that exists that is meant for you, that you just aren't necessarily, it's not within your conscious state to think about it. You don't know that that level of existence occurs. If that you do feel you're reaching ceilings, you are reaching points where you're frustrated in the current routines that you've got, your results are okay, but you're just not necessarily happy with where you're at, you're struggling to stay consistent, you are focusing on multiple things at once, and you feel that you can't focus on one thing at once for a long enough period of time for you to get them results, then it's probably time for you to listen to less things, do less. Sometimes less is more. You need to slow down a little bit. You need to take stock of the results that you've had over the past 12 months, 3 years. Think about things that you have to remind yourself of day to day as well. I'll tell you one of mine. Like, I still have to remind myself of this, that, hey, I can eat out on a Tuesday if I want to. I can skip a day of vegetables and fruits, knowing I can fucking have some more the next day and get back to them. That it's okay to not hit protein targets one day and make sure I do the next. It's the same for you. Didn't quite get your run finished on Thursday morning? Go out again Friday or Saturday or Sunday. You have that choice. You have that flexibility. Remember this, you are always a choice away from a new life, a new decision, great result. You are one choice away. If you are still figuring it out, or like I said, you haven't yet started, message us. Drop us a DM, put us an email through, info@klhealthhub.com. Find us on Instagram. Life is playing the long game. Life is trying to reduce immediate reward or immediate gratification. Like I said, we're in the attention age whereby we're focusing on so many different things because it's been trying to be grabbed from everybody, everything externally, where we forgot what's going on inside our head. Remember, this is a journey for you. It's not about trying to always find the end solution or outcome. That will come as a byproduct of what you do day to day. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still not getting anywhere, you are probably switching paths way too early. This podcast, this particular one, the playing the long game in general, our coaching is about staying the course, reflecting and iterating as you go along. That will build your future version of you, the life that you want, by staying the course, but on the right thing. As always, guys, thank you for joining and linking into this podcast. Let me know how this podcast has landed and if it's been something that you would recommend me doing again. I've enjoyed it. I've got some work to do on the transitions of everything and how I take notes, but equally, thank you again. Very grateful. Keep playing the long game, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.